Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Everybody's having a good time talking.
We are. We're catching up.
Catching up? Yeah. Okay. Well, this morning we're doing Parsha, the 19th Parsha, Terumah, contribution. Before we begin, what we see and what we hear and what we read, what we believe, is revealed what we do. Y'all believe that?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, I'm going back to my heed. Y'all know what the word heed means?
No, what does it mean?
No clue.
Take note, pay attention, be careful, attend to, take into consideration, be guided by, adhere to, observe, keep. And there's only one anonym to heed. Disregard.
Disregard.
You either heed it or you disregard it. So, what did Yeshua say about heeding God's commands?
It's life.
He said he humbled you, allowing you to become hungry, and then fed you with manna, which you neither your ancestors had ever known, to make you understand that a person does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. So, in a sense, he was saying, if you don't heed what God says, you don't understand who God is.
Mm-hmm.
So, join me this morning as we say the blessing together. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with thy commandments, and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'asok b'divrei Torah. Okay. I've got a question here before we start, but I'm just going to talk about Terumah, where the Lord commands Moses to tell the sons of Israel to take a contribution. And I think I said last week the word translated contribution in Terumah, which is the name of the Torah portion, but Terumah is a word with no real English equivalent. In the Torah, Terumah refers to a certain type of offering to dedicate the temple, like a tithe of first fruits or an offering like that. In Exodus 25, the contribution is for the building of a holy place. This Torah reading is occupied with the instructions for building of the tabernacle and its furnishings. And what does the tabernacle and its furnishings represent? Well, God says it's a place where I may dwell among them or dwell in them. So it's a place that we draw near to God. Okay. So what's the equivalent of that tabernacle today?
Our hearts.
Our hearts. That's right. He writes his commands on our hearts, so it will be in us. So how many times did Moses ascend to Mount Sinai to talk with God?
3 or 4.
How many?
At least twice. 8?
8 times.
8.
Before the Exodus, when he saw the burning bush, after the Israelites arrived at Sinai, when he was named mediator in 1907-12, just before the Ten Commandments were uttered, when he received the book of the covenant, when he ate the ratification meal with the 70 elders, he spent 40 days and 40 nights to receive the first set of tablets, and then 40 days and 40 nights for the second set. So 8 times.
It's the second set that he had to carve.
Well, he cut them out, but God wrote on them. So, why is 8 a significant number?
New beginnings.
New beginnings. In other words, at 7, he had set the tablets and had made a place for them, so, kind of a completion. And then they had the sin of the golden calf, and then when he went up and got the second set, it was a new beginning. And that's when he reaffirmed to Moses that I will lead you into the land. So, the new beginning, which is kind of, what do you call that? Prophetic. You messed up, but I'm going to hang with you. Okay. Get there. Exodus 25, 1 through 16. Have y'all noticed that it looks different, that the printing looks different?
Mm-hmm.
Why does it look different?
Because you changed it.
No. On the paper.
You spaced it.
Oh, I told you that already.
As we get older, the print gets bigger.
The glasses get thicker. That's right. Okay. The Lord said to Moshe, speak to the people of Israel that they take for me a contribution. From every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive the contribution for me. And this is the contribution that you shall receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue and purple and scarlet yarn, and fine twined linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, goat skins, acacia wood, oil for the lamp, spices for the anointing oil and for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and stones for setting for the ephod and for the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell in their midst, exactly as I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle and all its furniture. So you shall make it. They shall make an ark of acacia wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, a cubit and a half its breadth, and a cubit and a half its height. You shall overlay it with pure gold inside and out, and you shall overlay it, and you shall make it in a molding of gold around it. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 feet, 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and you shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark, to carry the ark by them. The poles shall remain in the ring of the ark. They shall not be taken from it. And you shall put into the ark the testimony that I shall give you. Okay, so what's the first thing that God told Moses to do when he ascended for 40 days and nights?
Receive the contributions.
Yeah, get a contribution. And to build a portable sanctuary called the tabernacle. The Hebrew root of teramah means to exalt or set on high. In other words, when it says you shall take a contribution, it's like taking an exalted contribution. Who did God suggest make the offering?
But one whose heart moves them.
Right. Can you name some of the items to be offered?
Gold, silver, and bronze.
Uh-huh.
Purple and gold, purple and,
Blue and purple and scarlet yarn,
yeah.
fine goat's hair, ram, goat hides, acacia wood, oil, spices,
Incense.
Precious.
Gems for the ephod.
yeah, precious gems.
What is an ephod?
An ephod,
Ephod, yeah.
it's a little jacket that goes around you. It's an ephod. Sleeveless. Why did God ask for these things?
So he could have a place to dwell with children of Israel? So he could have a place to dwell with the children of Israel?
Yeah, he wanted them to be in his midst, and he wanted them to be part of it. In other words, what's the first thing that you do when you're in charge of a project and you've got a group of people that are going to help you? Well, yeah, but the people, your relationship with the people, you get them involved. You get them on board. If you got a group of people that are supposed to help you and they're not on board, what's the likelihood you're going to be successful?
It's not getting there.
Not going to be good. Yes, they are to make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them. What special requirements was Moses given regarding instruction for the tabernacle? He had one special instruction.
Make it just like the one I showed you.
Yeah, just like when you saw on the mountain. Just like. So evidently, there's a perfect sanctuary somewhere else, right? And what was the first item to be made?
Dark.
Right, the ark overlaid with gold. And you know, you look at these measurements, and it's little bitty. You know, it's like 3.5 feet, 24 inches tall. It's not. You know, I always thought of this big thing, you know, but it's not. And then you think about it, it's overlaid with gold, and then it's got poles on it, and you have to carry it. So none of the stuff was really huge. The only big part of it was the tent, the poles, and those kind of things that had to be carried. And I think they had a wagon to carry those on, didn't they? And what was put inside the ark?
Just 10 cans.
German.
Well, initially just the
Two
tablets, yeah, and then later on the manna and
And
the
the
staff were
bread
added. So now, as you read through this, what's interesting about it? Okay, it started out, get all the materials and stuff, make a contribution, and then the first thing it tells them to make is the ark, and it goes through all the inner pieces out, you know, the curtains and all that kind of stuff, and then it gets to the tent, and then to the brazen altar, and then to the fence around it. So he's told them to build it from the inside out. From the inside out. Is that the way our relationship goes with God? It has to start from the inside.
Yeah.
True.
You know? So he starts with the heart of the matter.
Mhm.
And the heart of the matter here was everyone's heart who moves them to make a contribution. So if you have it in your heart to move to make it, then God says, okay, the first thing you do is you start with the covenant, where my covenant's going to be stored with me. And there's 2 copies of it, one for me and one for you. You remember we talked about that, where the 2 copies, it wasn't 5 commandments and 5 commandments, it was 10 and 10. One is God's, one is yours. Because in that day, you had 2 copies of a covenant, one for you and the one for the person that you're making the covenant with, and they had to be identical. So God made 2 copies, one for them, one for him. You think that's... I didn't see them, so I can't say for sure.
And Moses broke ours.
Moses, oh yeah, okay. And one of the first things you do is when things go wrong is you assign blame. I know I shouldn't be too humorous, should I, Diane?
I'm sorry.
I shouldn't be too humorous. Some people don't see that as humor.
You're not.
Okay, that's what Zoe says too. She says, that's funny. And she says, you're not funny. Okay.
Sorry, Paul.
Serious.
I know, it's okay. We're good. What?
It's a serious matter.
Serious, that's serious matter. Number 2, Exodus 25:17-30. You shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its breadth. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold. A hammered work shall you make them on the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub on the one end and 1 cherub on the other end. Of one piece with the mercy seat shall you make the cherubim on its 2 ends. The cherubim shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat with their wings, their faces one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. And you shall put the mercy seat on the top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony that I shall give you. There I will meet with you, and from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubim that are on the ark of the testimony, I will speak with you about all that I will give you in commandment for the people of Israel. You shall make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, a cubit its breadth, and a cubit and a half its height. You shall overlay it with pure gold, and make a molding of gold around it. And you shall make a rim around it a handbreadth wide, and a molding of gold around the rim. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold, and fasten the rings to the 4 corners at its 4 legs. Close to the frame the rings shall lie, as holders for the poles to carry the table. You shall make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be carried with these. And you shall make its plates and dishes for incense, and its flagons and bowls with which to pour drink offerings, and you shall make them of pure gold. And you shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me regularly. Okay, the origin of the word cherubim, where is that from? Some say it derives from the Hebrew word ki, like, and the Aramaic word rabia, a child. So childlike, which may explain the artistic depictions of cherubim as winged children. You've seen those in pictures and stuff. The cherubim are first mentioned guarding what?
The garden.
The access to the tree of life. After the sin of Adam and Eve. The next appear as statues mounted on the mercy seat over the ark. God is said to be enthroned over the cherubim in 1 Samuel 44 and in Psalm 80. The second commandment says that we are not to make a sculptured image or any likeness of what is in heaven or above. In light of this, how can we explain God's command to create cherubim for the ark?
Because it's supposed to be like it was in heaven. So because it's supposed to be like it was in heaven.
That's a good answer. Anybody else? Well, he put the cherubim to guard access to the tree of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he put the commandments in the ark, and he put cherubim over them to protect them. Do you think maybe he's hinting that that his commandments are a tree of life? Does Moses say in Deuteronomy 6:25, the commandments I give you today, they are your life. By them you will be righteous. So maybe he's intimating that I'm guarding these commandments, just like I did in the garden. What do y'all think?
Makes sense.
I thought maybe y'all would have some discussion about this. Evidently not. You haven't thought about it, right? Okay. Have you? Not much? Okay. Okay, moving right along then. Number 3, Exodus 25:31 through 26:14. That's pretty long. Do I have a volunteer?
Shall I?
Okay.
You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand shall be made of hammered work. Its base, its stem, its cups, its calyxes, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. And there shall be 6 branches going out of its sides. 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side of it, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side of it. 3 cups made like almond blossoms, each with calyx and flower on one branch, and 3 cups made like almond blossoms, each with calyx and flower on the other branch. So for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand. And on the lampstand itself there shall be 4 cups made like almond blossoms, with their calyxes and flowers, and a calyx of one piece with it under each pair of the 6 branches going out from the lampstand. Their calyxes and their branches shall be of one piece with it. the whole of it a single piece of hammered work of pure gold. You shall make 7 lamps for it, and the lamps shall be set up so as to give light on the space in front of it. Its tongs and their trays shall be of pure gold. It shall be made with all these utensils out of a talent of pure gold. And see that you make them after the pattern for them, which is being shown you on the mountain. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen and blue and purple and scarlet yarns. You shall make them with cherubim skillfully worked into them. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains shall be the same size. 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another. And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the outermost curtain in the final set. Likewise, you shall make loops on the edge of the outermost curtain in the second set. 50 loops you shall make on the one curtain, and 50 loops you shall make on the edge of the curtain that is in the second set. The loops shall be opposite one another. And you shall make 50 clasps of gold, and couple the curtains one to the other with the clasps, so that the tabernacle may be a single whole. You shall also make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains shall you make. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains shall be the same size. You shall couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves. And the 6th curtain you shall double over at the front of the tent. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in the second set. You shall make 50 clasps of bronze, and put the clasps into the loops, and couple the tent together that it may be a single whole. And the part that remains of the curtain of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the tabernacle. And the extra that remains in the length of the curtains, the cubit on the one side and the cubit on the other side, shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle, on this side and that side, to cover it. And you shall make for the tent a covering of tanned ram skins and a covering of goat skins on top.
Thanks. So, how was the menorah to be made?
Single piece.
A single piece, 1 talent. And you know how many pounds a talent of gold is?
Bunch.
A talent is 66 pounds. So if you have a talent of silver, it's 66 pounds. If you have a talent of gold, it's 66 pounds. But 66 pounds, you know, a gallon of milk weighs about 8 pounds. So 8 gallons of milk, 64 pounds. Anybody ever carry 8 gallons of milk? Everybody load 50-pound grain sacks? Anybody ever? That's heavy. I mean, well, 50 pounds. Most of the smallest bales I ever loaded were 75 pounds. That's when I was a kid. We did 75. What sizes did y'all do?
75 to 100.
I couldn't do hundreds. That's too wimpy. What is the midrash? Do you know what the midrash is about the making of the menorah? That Moses did not know how to make it, so he threw some gold into the fire and it was immediately formed.
Mm.
What does that remind you of?
It's like the golden calf.
That's like the golden calf, that's right. I think it's kind of a specious argument myself.
How did it get hammered
Hmm?
in? How did it get hammered in?
Yeah, had to get hammered, that's right. How were the wicks of the menorah to be placed?
So that they cast light in front of them.
Right. Well, it's interesting, you know. I mean, it's everything has a reason. You know, why God did it. What's y'all's overall arching opinion about these things that God's making, the menorah, the ark, the tent, the incense, the showbread, the curtain. What all of it, what is it a picture of?
His kingdom.
First the
Tabernacle in
natural,
heaven.
then the spiritual.
Right? The natural and the spiritual, but it's the sections are divided into where God is and where we are. And as you approach, the holiness requirement goes up. In other words, you have a place where outside the tent people can gather, but inside the tent, just the people that are offering the sacrifice, bring the sacrifice, and the priests can be there. And then inside the tent, in the holy place, just the priests can go in. But inside the Holy of Holies, only the high priest can go in. So it's a, it's a place where you draw near, but the closer you get, the fewer are allowed, and the requirements to get there are higher. Right? So, what was God telling? I mean, do you think that the Israelites understood that?
No.
You know? Well, I think that I think he got their attention, because I mean, he said, he set up boundaries and said you can't. I mean, even when they're going up on the mountain, he said anybody crosses the boundary, gets on the mountain, kill them. He didn't say I'm going to kill them. He said you kill them.
Yep.
So they set a boundary, and then he told Moses and Aaron to come up, and then they were allowed to go up. But if they would have stepped, and then he said, you can bring the 70 elders up. But he never did say anybody else could go up on the mountain, did he? So I mean, why does God do that?
Because we don't earn our own way, he does it.
That's a good answer too. We don't own our own way, but he directs our way. He tells us. I mean, it's really interesting, the parallels between parenting and God, because kids are always asking, why do I have to do that? And you have to, well, because I ask you to. I have a hard time saying I asked you. I have to say because I told you to.
That's what I was heard.
Yeah, but the thing about it is in order to have a relationship, there has to be a command structure. There has to be a command structure. I mean, in relationship, in all families, I don't care who it is, if you call it a city, or if you call it a state, or if you call it a country, everything has a command structure. It has a hierarchy of the way things are. And God is setting up his kingdom, and he's commanding the command structure of how it is. And he says, if you want to be in the kingdom, understand how it operates. Basically, understand how it operates. And if you look at when it describes the angels, it's got certain angels that are close to him and some that are far away, and they all have specific things that they're doing. So, what does it say about God and about us?
His ways are not our ways.
That's right. But they should be.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, you can say, he is saying, learn my ways, and then you'll learn about me, and then you can draw near. But if we're not willing to learn his ways and to learn about him, we're going to have a hard time drawing near. Okay? And that's the same thing that Jesus said. Come to me, and I will show you the way. But there's that little verse in Matthew 7 that I've been reading the last few weeks about the way that leads to destruction, the path is wide. The one that leads to to salvation is narrow and few find it. Why do few find it? Why does he say few find it?
There's only a few are willing to.
Put forth the effort.
Well, it's put forth the effort, but the number one thing is, and that kind of hit home with me, is that James Tour, he said, you know, it's a high bar. He said, you go look at other religions, and they have all kinds of frivolous things that they say to do, you know, blah, blah, blah. But he said, you look at God's relationship with us. He said, what's the bar? He said, what's the bar? He said, you have to believe that Yeshua died, was dead for 3 days, and rose from the dead. He said, there's no religion like that. He said, it's not a low bar. He said, it's a high bar. He said, you have to believe that. And then you have to trust that. You have to believe that it is true. You have to trust it with your life. Okay? And then, what do you have to do? 2 things.
Start living.
Turn from what you used to be and start being like God wants you to be. Commands you to be. Follow His commandments. Okay? So those are the 2 things. Turn from the way you used to be. Believe that He is who He said He is, that He came, He died, He resurrected, and He wants us to have a relationship with Him. He wants us to know Him. And so all these things that we're reading about today are a prelude so that the Israelites would learn who He is and to recognize Him when He came. And what did Yeshua tell the Pharisees?
If you believed in Moses, you would believe me.
Yeah, if you would have understood Moses, you would know me. Yeah. He said, if you know, I think they put understand, but he says, if you knew Moses, you would know me. But what he's saying is that when you know something, it means you understand it. You know Moses. If you knew what Moses taught, then you would know who I am.
You almost want to talk that when you're talking about other folks. Wanted to use that one when talking to other folks that don't cotton on the command.
That's right.
Jesus said, if you believe Moses, you would believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Contrary to that, if you believe who he was, you would believe that Moses wrote about him.
That's
what
right.
he said.
That's right. It goes both ways. I mean, it's not a one-way street.
I think that's why I'm saying that the people didn't really understand the process of getting into the Holy of Holies, because it takes a while to come to that understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a lot of people, religions today, that it's just all about obeying the rules. And just like Terah, it means out of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes some time to get to that Holy of Holies, to realize that's the only way I'm really going to get to the Father, because
Right.
of my heart.
Yeah. Well, see, that's interesting you say that, but you know, the David Wood, did y'all ever go watch David Wood? The psychotic guy? What do you call him? Can't remember the word. Anyway, that's the very thing he said when he starts describing guards in prison. He said, you have guards that want to be your friend. He said, they want to be your friend. He said, and then you have other guards that want to be rule keepers.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't keep the rule. No, rule keepers. And then you have other guards that are that want to lord over you. You know, Jesus attacks that too. He says, don't be like the Gentiles who have these, they want to lord over the people that they're, you know. But then he says, then you have the guards that have your genuine best interest at heart. He said, and he said, they know the rules, and they want to keep the rules, but they want the best for you, and they want to be honest with you, and you want them to be. He wants you to be honest with them, and he said they'll go out of their way to do anything to help you. He said, now, he said, you go into any prison and you talk to anybody, he said, everybody will know the different kind of guards. And he said, the ones that have your interest at heart, he said, all the prisoners will go out of their way to they'll respect them, they'll do for them. He said, the other classes, he said, the ones that want to be your friend, he said, all they do is take advantage of those people. And the ones that are the rule keepers and lord it over you, he said, the prisoners will figure out a way to get at them. He said, it's amazing. So,
It sounds like, is it Haggai with Esther?
mm-hmm,
He knew the rules, and he saw her, and he wanted her to. And so there was a system, an order,
mm-hmm.
and he was there to help her get to that place.
Well, and it's the same thing with Haman. Haman was the guy, he was the deceiver, and he had deceived his way into a place of authority.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
and through his deception, he thought it was all about him. I mean, if you read the story, he thought it was about him, and that's why his fall was so great.
Yep.
So it's interesting how these things parallel each other.
And his wife prophesied that.
Mhm.
She told him your fall's gonna be great because you're going up against this guy that
Mhm.
God's on his side.
That's right. Number 4. You shall make upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits shall the length of the frame, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each frame. There shall be 2 tenons in each frame for fitting together. So shall you do for all the frames of the tabernacle. You shall make the frames for the tabernacle, 20 frames for the south side, and 40 bases of silver you shall make under the 20 frames. 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under the next frame for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side, 20 frames, and their 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under the next frame. For the rear of the tabernacle westward, you shall make 6 frames. You shall make 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They shall be separate beneath, but joined at the top at the first ring. Thus shall it be with both of them. They shall form the 2 corners. And there shall be 8 frames with their bases of silver, 16 bases, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under another frame. You shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames of the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 for the bars of the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the side of the tabernacle at the rear westward. The middle bar halfway up the frame shall run from end to end. You shall overlay the frames with gold, and shall make their rings of gold for holders for the bars, and you shall overlay the bars with gold. Then you shall erect the tabernacle according to the plan that you were shown on the mountain. So, the account of creation is given in 34 verses. But the description of the tabernacle is described in over 250 verses in the scripture. 34 to 250. What's significant about that?
Well, Moses had first-hand knowledge of the design of the tabernacle. He wasn't there at the time of creation.
People need a lot more direction than God speaking His word.
That's a good one. Yeah. It's about an 8 to 1 ratio there. About 8 to 1.
The meeting place of God is more important than what went down in creation.
Hmm. Well, it's kind of interesting. What was going on in creation? What was going on?
God's word is making us happy.
Yeah, but I mean, the culmination. He started with nothing, and he built it and built it and built it and built it. What's the last thing that he made?
Humans.
Man.
No, he made a garden, planted in it, and placed man there. the last thing he did was he built the tabernacle so that he could have a place to meet with God. He built it. Do you think it was that tabernacle was the same as what we're looking at here? And in the midst was the tree of life?
It's possible.
Who's the tree of life that was in the midst of the garden? Okay. I think that's right. I think that's, that he built everything, and in the midst was the tabernacle, and that's where he met with Adam to have a relationship.
Now, what did
Oh, number 5. I'll go to it. Exodus 26:31-37. And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet yarn, fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim skillfully worked into it, and you shall hang it on the 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, with hooks of gold, on 4 bases of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the clasp, and bring the ark of the testimony in there within the veil. And the veil shall separate for you the holy place from the most holy. And you shall put the mercy seat on the ark of the testimony in the holy place. And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle opposite the table. And you shall put the table on the north side, and you shall make a screen for the entrance of the tent, and you of blue and purple scarlet yarns, and of fine twisted linen, embroidered with needlework. And you shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and you shall cast 5 bases of bronze for them. So, what was the paroquet, the veil of the tent, used for?
to separate?
A door.
It separate the holy of holies from the most holy place, from the holy place. Why does the Hebrew refer to the veil as the wall of separation?
So it's to keep out the non-worthy.
Yeah, in Mark 15:38-39 it says, and the curtain of the temple was torn in 2, top from to bottom. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, truly this man was the Son of God. So, Paul writes that the wall of separation was done away with. The wall of separation. The place into the Holy of Holies. But was it done away with, or was it replaced?
It was replaced.
I think it was replaced. I think the wall of separation is Yeshua, and that we come through his blood. The separation is there, but we have a more perfect access. Now that's my opinion. It's not scriptural, but it fits my belief, I think. So when God desired to show more convincingly to the heirs of the promise the unchangeable character of his purpose, he guaranteed it with an oath, so that by 2 unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled for refuge might have strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. We have this as a sure and steadfast anchor of the soul, a hope that enters into the inner place behind the curtain, where Yeshua has gone as a forerunner on our behalf, having become a high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. It's from Hebrews 6:17-20. And then in Hebrews 10:19-22, therefore, brothers, since we have confidence to enter the holy place by the blood of Yeshua, by the new and living way that he opened for us through the curtain, that is, through his flesh, and since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. So, that's why I say that Yeshua is the wall of separation. He is the one that draws us near, that we have access. And without him. Go ahead.
I have a little different idea about it, and it may not be correct, but it appears to me that if the centurion saw the opening of the veil,
Mhm.
that it couldn't have been the veil into the Holy of Holies. It had to be the veil going into the holy place.
Into the holy place.
And if it is the veil that goes into the holy place, it unveils the table of bread, which Jesus says, I am the bread of life.
Mm-hmm.
It unveils the menorah, the light of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it unveils the altar of incense,
Prayers.
which, and that eventually that veil will be opened when the kingdom comes, the veil to the Holy of Holies, when Jesus returns as the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So I don't know how that plays out, but I see it a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing. I mean, when he comes, he will be that access point. Is that? I don't know. I'm too much a data processor. You know, with access points. Anyway, if we don't discuss the things and talk about them, our iron won't get any sharper.
That's right.
Paul,
Hmm?
I had somebody at work say something to me that it's been kind of making me think, and I wanted to see if I could bounce it off of you real quick.
Bounce it.
Yeah, you know, iron sharpens iron. He said that the reason God can't lie is because even if my shirt's blue and God said it's black, then my shirt will turn black because God said that. How do you, is that,
Well, that's one of those things like how many angels will fit on the head of a needle. Number one, what difference does it make? Are we going to learn anything from it? No. I mean, I don't
I've
like.
always thought about that one as it's not getting what God can't lie and human understanding is something that I think that comes down to, because considering that God's word spoke the world into creation, whatever God says simply is. So I think it's just trying to get our human understanding wrapped around whatever he says simply is. It's just
Yeah, but somebody that makes a specious argument about it, well, if God says it's black, then it just turns black. I mean, that doesn't increase your faith, or all it does is cause confusion. And God's not a God of confusion. He's a God of order and truth. And so, saying stuff like that, I just disagree. That's just something that you're trying to argue about. Yeah, mincing words. I mean, I would ignore it.
I would think that if God said it was black, it would have always been black.
Yeah. Okay. Number
wanted to see what
Number 6, you shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. And you shall make horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. And you shall make pots for it to receive its ashes, and shovels and basins and forks and fire pans. And you shall make all its utensils of bronze. You shall also make for it a grating, a network of bronze, and on that net you shall make 4 bronze rings at its corners, at its 4 corners. And you shall set it under the ledge of the altar, so that the net extends halfway down the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put through the rings, so that the poles are on the two sides of the altar when it is carried. You shall make it hollow with boards, and it shall be shown you on the mountain, so it shall and it has been shown you on the mountain, so shall it be made. So describe the altar of burnt offering in the outer court. How do you describe it? A square wood frame covered with bronze with horns on the four corners. It included a grating of bronze. It was portable, and it included rings and poles for carrying. It had a ramp leading up to it. So, do you all know what the acronym for that? Put this up here.
And this is in the whole.
The sages say that the word altar, which is mitzbeach, it's the mem, zion, bait, chet, is an acronym for. Do you know what the acronym is? The mem, mekhelah, forgiveness, which can be sought by sacrifice. The zion is zakarut, merit from obedience to the ritual. The bait, bracha, blessing that comes from trusting in God's provision for sin. And the chet is life that comes from God's grace. So the altar, the mitzbeach, is a picture of the gospel. Forgiveness, blessing, and life. Is that what Jesus is? He's our sacrifice. He's our.
And this bronze altar, that's in the holy place, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, is that the way we understand the terms of the cross? We receive redemption, forgiveness by His merit, and the blessing of life by His sacrifice.
Yes.
According to the Midrash, the fire would not be extinguished if it rained, and the smoke would ascend in a vertical column from the altar regardless of the wind. The flames of the fire were also said to resemble a lion. Y'all ever heard that? That's the Midrash. The fire went straight up, smoke went straight up, didn't matter, and the flame looked like a lion. It's a good thought. Okay. We're at number 6?
So,
Number 7, I'm sorry. But I didn't press it yet. Number 7. You shall make the court of the tabernacle on the south side of the court shall have hangings of fine twined linen 100 cubits long for one side. Its 20 pillars on their 20 bases shall be of bronze, but the hooks and the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for its length on the north side there shall be a hanging 100 cubits long, its pillars 20 and their bases 20 of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side there shall be hangings for 50 cubits, with 10 pillars and 10 bases. The breadth of the court, the front to the east, shall be 50 cubits. The hangings on one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, with their 3 pillars and 3 bases. On the other side the hangings shall be 15 cubits, with their pillars and their 3 bases. For the gate of the court there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, of blue and purple and scarlet yarn and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. It shall have 4 pillars, and with them 4 bases. All the pillars around the court shall be filleted with silver. The hooks shall be of silver, and their bases of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, the breadth 50, and the height 5 cubits, with hangings of fine twined linen and bases of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle for every use, all its pegs and all the pegs of the court shall be of bronze. So, according to the the Midrash Rabbah, the Mishkan is likened to the creation of the universe. Do y'all like that? The creation of the universe? Let's go through it. Regarding the work of the first day of creation, it says, He who stretches out the heavens like a curtain. Regarding the making of the Mishkan, the temple, it says, And you shall make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. Regarding the work of the second day of creation, it says, Let there be a firmament, and let it divide between the waters and the waters. Regarding the making of the Mishkan, it says, And the veil shall divide for you between the holy and the holy of holies. Regarding the work of the third day of creation, it says, Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together. Regarding the making of the Mishkan, it says, And you shall make a copper basin, and the base thereof of copper for washing. Regarding the work of the fourth day of creation, it says, Let there be luminaries in the heavens. Regarding the making of the Mishkan, it says, And you shall make a menorah of pure gold. Regarding the work of the fifth day of creation, it says, Let fowl fly above the earth. Regarding the making of the Mishkan, it says, The cherubim shall spread out their wings upward. On the sixth day, man was created to inhabit and cultivate the earth. Regarding the Mishkan, it says to Moses, Bring near Aaron, your brother, to perform the service in the sanctuary. On the seventh day, we have it written, And the heaven and the earth were complete, and God completed his work, and God blessed, and God sanctified. Regarding the making of the Mishkan, it says, Thus was completed all the work of the tabernacle, and Moses blessed them. And it came to pass on that day that Moses completed the tabernacle and sanctified it. Good, huh? Anyway, I do have this one deal about Calvin. And I've done this before, but I did it a little bit differently this time. It's throwing these snowballs would give me immediate and certain pleasure. Refraining from throwing these snowballs in the hope of being rewarded is delayed and uncertain pleasure. Let me see. As usual, righteousness hardly puts up a fight. It's interesting. What's throwing the snowballs and refraining from throwing the snowballs?
Throwing the snowballs is instant gratification.
Yeah, sin is fun for a day, right? But there is a reckoning. So refraining from doing the sin, don't have any pleasure, but maybe you're going to have something in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people make the wrong decision. Righteousness hardly gets considered. Wonder how life works. Y'all ever wonder that? Okay. Next week, Tetzavah, you shall command. Y'all remember what Tetzavah is about? You shall command. Well, y'all gonna have to read it and tell me about it. I forgot it. Okay, join me in the blessing. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth, Yeshua our Messiah, and set everlasting life in our midst. Blessed art thou, O Lord, giver of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, Yeshua Meshikenu, v'kayi olam neta betukenu, Baruch atah Adonai notin ha-Torah.
Skipped a line.
I
I tried to skip a line.
do that all the time. try to skip a line. Yes. Great peace have those who love your law. Nothing can make them stumble. And the way of the wicked is like darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. And those who abandon the Torah praise the wicked, but those who keep Torah fight them. Oops, I left that out. If a person will not listen to Torah, even his prayer is an abomination. And enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it throw lots of snowballs. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few.
And throw a few snowballs.
And they don't throw any snowballs. All right. Well, thank y'all for being here.
Thanks, Paul.
Hope you
Thank you, Paul.
hope you learned something and got a laugh.